Today, further scrutiny of New Jersey's Delaney Hall Immigration Facility amid allegations of abuse and inhumane conditions for detainees. For the first time since touring that facility last week, Border Czar Tom Homan publicly responded to those claims.
I toured the whole facility. Is it a five-star resort? No. But is it a well-run detention facility? Yes. I sat down in the cafeteria with the detainees and ate the same meal they ate. And again, was it a five-star cuisine? No, but it was spaghetti and meat sauce. It was green beans. It was charred beans. The spaghetti was good. And I'm a pretty big guy, and I didn't finish the meal. I couldn't finish the meal.
Joining me now is immigration attorney Alan Orr. So, Alan, your reaction to Homan's remarks there?
Yeah, I think tricks are for kids and stunts are for TV shows. I don't really think that one meal really speaks to what happened at the facility. And the fact that they're fighting to keep state and local inspectors off the facility tells us exactly what we need to know about the quality of that facility.
So you have this week House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who toured the facility with some New Jersey lawmakers. Jeffries called the conditions, in fact, a shock to the conscience. Are there, Alan, any options for detainees to demand better treatment? Does it fall just to the attorneys representing them? And if so, how do you battle this when you have the administration and people like Tom Homan denying their problems and, hey, the food's good, there's plenty of it?
So I think the first problem is that we, the American people, need to stand up because this represents us as a nation, and that's a smudge on our sort of relationship, and it's causing lawsuits and additional costs for us. So it's about the American people in Congress. The first thing we need for Congress to do, and they have a chance to do this right now because there's a bill for funding that's in the House, and the House needs to stand up and say, unless these detention facilities, all of them, 90% of them are private, have these specific standards in every one of them as a legal standard, then we are not going to give any additional money. Funding them for 3 years will not solve the problem. That's the first issue. The second issue is Congress needs to come back and control. They haven't done anything. There was a last appointed ICE director was in 2017, 2019, I think the last end of 2019 was the end of Sarah's term. So we don't even have anyone running ICE, yet we're throwing billions of dollars at it where we don't have standard policies. We don't have a standard rule for detention facilities. So basically anything goes and it's fly by night. That's not a good look for the United States.
Well, here's something disturbing. Some detainees, they leave these facilities in extremely poor health. And there's new reporting suggesting ICE will no longer report deaths which occur after release. So how will this affect transparency? How can DHS be held accountable if there's no available information tracking the conditions of detainees?
So what's happened at Delaney Hall is indicative of across the nation. There are about 225 of these detention facilities. So just like your prior story about those data centers, this is the same thing across the United States and 33 states that are out of control. And they're not reporting this because it makes them look bad. There are already 18 deaths in these detention facilities, 70% of them in these private facilities this year. So therefore, they're trying to remove their burden so that these individuals might not be able, or their family members or the countries, to sue them. So it is not okay to release someone because they're close to death, and then they're releasing them in these very distant places, and then they're discovered later on, and then we have these huge stories and these lawsuits. It would be better if they just gave them the human rights that were required to detain anyone. Detention facilities for immigration are not criminal punishment. So therefore, there's civil rights involved. So therefore, many of these things that are happening should not be happening there, because we want to treat them like criminals, then every one of them should have a lawyer and a day in court, rapid due process.
Speaking of accountability, DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen was questioned by lawmakers this week. Let's take a listen.
What have you done to change the culture of your department?
My predecessor and myself were enforcing the law of the land, not turning a blind eye to it, and that's what Mayorkas did. He turned a blind eye to it.
Your predecessor is no longer here. She disgraced this department, and it seems like you are following right in her footsteps.
You know, Mullen also refused to answer any questions on whether he'd comply with court orders from judges who rule that DHS is acting illegally. So, do you see a difference between his leadership and that of former Secretary Kristi Noem? And if so, what is it?
So I want to start with, he's not a lawyer. So generally under the other administrations, there were lawyers who were able to interpret the law, have degrees, taken an oath to the Constitution. I mean, while he's taken an oath to the Constitution, I don't see the sort of fulfillment of it. Greg Bovino last week said that he was a great plumber and that he's really good at plumbing, but how is he at running these 22 other agencies? So right now we do see a shift as far as a pullback on the civil rights of individuals in cities. So that has not happened, but we don't see sort of a sort of full enforcement of immigration laws and sort of changing the way they operate. On the legal side, we have long delay in case processing, and we see him focused on closing down airports in blue cities, which seems to be a political job, not a job to enforce immigration laws or to carry out the better needs of the United States, specifically when we have many global events happening here. It doesn't seem like a good look in his first 2 months. Hopefully he will change it around, but it depends on the people that he has with him, and right now it is not a very good job.
Okay, Eleanor, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate that.